Guest tonight is a husband, father, military veteran, and activist. He has 3 dogs, 2 kids, and lives in Southern California. He is also the Duke of Sussex. Please welcome to The Late Show, Prince Harry.
They're desperately trying to control the narrative because they know that if they lose it, then the truth will come out.
I'm walking alone, the streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette.
And, you know, recently, within the last couple of months, the King of the Netherlands and the King of Norway have led by example. And I congratulate them for that enormously. And I don't think they've been given enough credit for what they've done. But it is huge. And more of that is needed.
I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for me.
She was the villain. She was the third person in the marriage. She needed to rehabilitate her image.
You and your brother both directly asked your dad not to marry Camilla.
Yes.
Why?
We didn't think it was necessary. We thought that it was going to cause more harm than good, and that if he was now with his person, that surely that's enough. Why go that far when you don't necessarily need to? We wanted him to be happy, and we saw how happy he was with her. So at the time it was okay.
You wrote that she started a campaign in the British press to pave the way for a marriage, and you wrote, I even wanted Camilla to be happy, maybe she'd be less dangerous if she was happy.
Mm-hmm.
How was she dangerous?
Because of the need for her to rehabilitate her image.
That made her dangerous?
That made her dangerous because of the connections that she was forging within the British press.
I didn't detect any lies in what he was saying. He said, he alleged that Camilla had a calculated agenda to remedy her public image as the other woman, one that paved the way for her marriage and eventual queen title. It's now Queen, not Queen Consort. Also, it was that Lady Susan Hussey resigned and apologized for her unacceptable and deeply regrettable racial comments that she made.
Her name was Lady Hussey.
Lady Susan Hussey. And she was the person that Camilla and the Queen and everyone assigned to protect Meghan Markle. And then he also called her dangerous because of the connections she still has with members of the media and her willingness to trade information. No lies detected, and I don't think that any child of this was the best part. He describes his stepmother as the villain and the third person in the marriage, which is how his mother describes her.
That's right.
So in my view, no child of divorce really loves the divorce, because I'm a child of divorce. I'm certainly not going to like the woman that was in between my parents' marriage talking dirty on the phone.
Yeah.
I'm not going to like that. He didn't like it. He didn't lie. I say let them keep their little Frogmore cottage. Harry and Meghan, they have $135 million worth of projects. They threw a little $2 million to fix it up, and let Prince Andrew live at Frogmore.
I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul.
This is Felix for World Central Kitchen reporting from Soufrière Primary School in the Caribbean island of Dominica. The school you can see behind me was devastated by Hurricane Maria back in 2017, and in fact it took a whole 2 years before pupils were allowed back on site. I'm now here with my colleague Jason to announce the completion of the first of our community relief kitchens. The kitchen will be used primarily to feed the needs of the 67 pupils here at the school, but we'll also be offering culinary training to the wider community when the school's not in session. We've been able to design the kitchen in such a way that it's resilient to future disasters and will be activated as a service kitchen to meet those needs if it arises. We really like to extend our thanks firstly to ResDM, the local partner on the ground here, and also to Meghan and Harry's Archewell Foundation, whose support have helped the project become possible.
We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes.
broken families.
You can be the visionary of your own life. You can charter a path in which what you repeat in your daily acts of service, in kindness, in advocacy, in grace, and in fairness, that those become the very things that are recognized by the next wave of women, both young and old, who will also choose this moment to join the movement and make our vision for an equitable world.
Harvey Levin here.
Charles here.
So Meghan and Harry had quite the night. It started out very glamorous with a lot of acclaim. Meghan got an award and it was a very glitzy event. We'll get into that in a minute.
There was someone who reportedly works for the British tabloids who don't get along with Meghan and Harry, screaming at Meghan, and specifically he screamed, "How does it feel that you ruined two families?"
Meghan, how do you feel about being part of two broken families?
Okay, then they get into the car, and now the pursuit happens, right?
But the headline turns out not to be what happened at the event, it's what happened after.
Right. As their spokesperson describes it, and as we have confirmed with independent sources, that there was a harrowing, in fact, they say near catastrophic 2-hour chase around New York City, paparazzi chasing them, and it all started right here. This is around 10 p.m. as they left the Ziegfeld Theater and they got into their SUV.
Now the paparazzi are following them because, of course, they want that photo. They've already yelled that thing at her. Now they want the photo of her going like, or whatever.
Well, what happened once they got in that SUV is a chase that at times got up to speeds of 80 miles per hour. And I know you may be thinking, where in New York City are you going to drive 80 miles per hour?
That would be the FDR.
The FDR Drive on the east side of Manhattan. They were doing 80, trying to shake photographers who were chasing them.
And they were right on their tail.
So that they can publish any photo of them looking a certain way and us coming to a conclusion, just like we did with Ben and J-Lo last week.
They understand now that they can't really get rid of that interest, but I think that they're trying to do their hardest to, I think that they've been using shame tactics, they've been using legal tactics to try to discourage some of this. And so I think that that's why this became public in the first place, is because people started running those photos and they were thinking, okay, we don't want them to be running these photos. We don't want the people who are making our lives miserable last night to make the money off of it. And after sharing the story, the Daily Mail and the Express took those photos down.
See, Richard, even when they lay low.
Yeah, and this was not just Harry and Meghan in their single SUV. They actually had an entourage that, it's clear that they anticipated some of this.
Clearly, they were in an SUV. There were two security SUVs that were tailing them, and then there was a fourth SUV that eventually was used to try and block traffic to thwart the paparazzi that were following them.
Right.
Now, they say that pedestrians were almost hit, cars were almost hit, a couple of police officers almost
were involved,
hit.
right?
So I know this sounds crazy, but we have confirmed, like Charles said, that this really did last 2 hours.
They're in a blacked out SUV. You can't really see in there anyway. The object of the game seemed to be to conduct a surveillance that took them back to where they were going, so
Where
that the
they were
paparazzi could stake that out, camp out there, and then be able to follow their every move. So they were trying to thwart that.
So there were times when they went to various police stations trying to get some help, or
trying to get help, or trying to
get
shake
cover.
the paparazzi. So,
and I mean, that goes literally, they go all the way uptown, can't shake them, they're trying to slow down. Now, they're not running red lights, they're not speeding, but these people are swarming around, blocking the front of the car, driving through red lights into oncoming traffic. At one point, when two of the SUVs in the motorcade didn't move while the car with the Duke and Duchess went, one of those paparazzi cars mounted the sidewalk, hit something, skirted the corner, came off the sidewalk, pedestrians scattering.
How long did this go on for?
the video we're about to show you, this is them almost an hour and a half after leaving the theater. They've been in this chase. They've been on the FDR going 80 miles per hour. And now they've gone back to a police precinct, and they get into a yellow cab. They get out of their SUV. They get into a yellow cab.
And it's to shake the paparazzi. They're figuring nobody would think they'd get in the yellow cab, so they get in at the police station and drive away, and they're thinking we're going to shake the paparazzi.
But
that did not
clearly,
happen.
you can see the paparazzi knew they were there. That's their security guard who gets out of the front seat and is trying to get the photographers to back up.
How long did this go on for?
So this goes on for an hour and a half plus.
Show you, this is them almost an hour and a half after leaving the theater.
Until they finally say, we've been uptown, we've been downtown to 23rd Street, uptown to 96th Street, FDR Drive, 3rd Avenue, side streets, and we can't lose this pack. So Tommy Buddha, who is the guy running the motorcade on the private security side, former FBI, NYPD, JTTF detective, very competent guy, says, let's go somewhere safe, take a breather and make a plan. So they go to the 19th Police Precinct. That's where they shift to the taxi, but the spotters for the paparazzis end up following them. And then they go to plan C, which actually works.
And they shifted to the taxi, John, as a decoy to throw off the paparazzi?
The idea would be the paparazzi were focused on the motorcade that was in place. And if they could slip them into a taxi that would then disappear at midnight into a sea of other taxis in Manhattan traffic, it might actually be the getaway, because the place they were going actually wasn't far away. It was a couple of blocks.
Okay. You can see the thinking behind getting in a yellow cab. It might blend in more with all of the other yellow cabs in New York City, so they could sort of make a hasty retreat and lose the paps, but it didn't work at all. And this does sound absolutely harrowing. People driving the wrong way, apparently cars getting up on sidewalks. And for Harry, this has to be traumatizing because his mother was killed during a pap chase in Paris in 1997 when he was just 12 years old. So all those memories had to come flooding back when he's in the car.
So this cab that left that police station kind of circled apparently and then came back, I don't know, 15 minutes later.
10, 15 minutes later, goes back to the precinct. They get out of the cab.
And got back in the SUV that they were in originally, because I'm guessing here they didn't want the cab driver to
be involved in
well, also they don't know how good of a driver he is.
Yeah. And by the way, the cab driver himself might have been like, I don't want any part of this. I didn't know that there was a chase going on.
Right.
So they
came back to the precinct, got in an SUV, and this lasted until midnight.
That was sort of what the mayor was alluding to. How could it be a high-speed chase in New York City? We wish that we could do a high-speed chase, but at times it was, right, John?
So this was never a high-speed chase because the motorcade had an NYPD element in it from the Intelligence Bureau. And the instructions were, we're not lights and sirens, we're not running lights, we're following traffic regulations, we're there as a protection detail. Now, the paparazzi, that was a different set of rules because they went high speed to catch up. There was a time where they were, half a block behind the motorcade, and they literally crossed the yellow lines, drove into oncoming traffic until they caught up and placed themselves back there. That was among 20 things that happened, from 23rd Street to 96th Street as they tried to stay, on their tail.
Sonny, had you ever seen anything else like this in your years of driving taxi?
No. I've been driving now since 2018. This was the first time I saw this. I had other celebrities, but other celebrities never got that much attention from the paparazzis.
That's interesting. And so does that give you a sense? I mean, now today, with all the attention that this has gotten, does that surprise you? And does it give you a sense of what their lives must be like?
Yeah, you can tell, right? He lost his mother, running away from the paparazzis as well. So you can tell they were nervous and scared in the car.
Yeah. How much was the fare? Did they give you a good tip?
Exactly. They gave me a good tip. The fare was $17.80. They gave me a $50 for 15 years of work.
That is a good tip, right there, Sonny.
Yeah, really good, really good.
Yeah, that's really good.
They would have been covered as representatives of the crown, as members of the royal family, as a diplomatic trip. Basically, they're private citizens now, and not on a government mission here. But the first rule of risk management, as we were taught long ago, is predictable is preventable. When you have two people that you know are going to draw this kind of attention and potentially this kind of mayhem, you put a police element in there just in the name of public safety. And that's why the NYPD was, along with the private security. The complicating factor is, as it was just said here by Richard, that's to protect them from threats that you would have against royals and people like that, terrorists, stalkers, assassins, the normal threats. When you're surrounded by, this swarm of press that are literally slowing you down, blocking you at intersections, then trying to catch up to you, if there is a real threat, getting off the X is that much harder.
Yeah.
A lot of people have kind of suggested or wondered, why didn't they just go to the place where they were going to stay? Well, the answer we got was they didn't want bedlam at that place. They were staying at a friend's house.
Right, staying at a friend's house, private residence, and they had the photographers following them at that point. They just didn't want to bring all of that chaos to their friend. And so they made the decision to drive around until it all died down. And
so their people issued this statement.
Last night, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and Ms. Ragland, because Meghan's mom was there, were involved in a near catastrophic car chase at the hands of a ring of highly aggressive paparazzi. This relentless pursuit, lasting over 2 hours, resulted in multiple near collisions involving other drivers on the road, pedestrians, and 2 NYPD officers. While being a public figure comes with a level of interest from the public, it should never come at the cost of anyone's safety. So, I got to imagine once we got the information about them being on the FDR and doing 80 miles an hour,
it all made sense.
That is the moment where Harry's got to think, this is what happened to my mother.
This is what happened to my mother.
Because they were speeding through that tunnel in Paris, trying to avoid the paparazzi.
So you got to wonder, and this is something we talked about today in our morning meeting, that, why this and not when, say, Kim Kardashian or just the other day, we showed you Taylor Swift coming out of a recording studio at 2 a.m. and there were all these paparazzi there, but they stayed. And there's a difference.
I think the big difference here, and Charles pointed this out, is the rarity of the occasion.
Right.
I mean, these are the royals in New York. You don't see them all the time. Kim goes back and forth between New York, so those photos are somewhat less valuable, for lack of a better word, even given how famous she is. You don't see Meghan and Harry out all that often in New York, so those photos can be very, very valuable.
It's interesting, too.
And particularly overseas.
And
that's what all those photographers were thinking.
There was someone who reportedly works for the British tabloids.
Photographers who were chasing them.
And they were right on their tail.
So that they can publish any photo of them looking a certain way.
We're thinking, okay, we don't want them to be running these photos. We don't want the people who are making our lives miserable last night to make the money off of it. And after sharing the story, the Daily Mail and the Express took those photos down.
See, Richard, even when they lay low.
But that's not a justification for what went on there last night.
I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul.
Meghan Markle's sister, Samantha Grant, or Samantha Markle as she now prefers to be called.
Well, she had the audacity to say that this whole business with Thomas Markle, Meghan's father and her father obviously, was down to media vultures. We had made him stage the pictures. We had made him take a big check from paparazzi. We had made him basically sell out his own daughter's wedding. And I immediately went, I'm not having that. I'm sorry. No. And actually, especially not from you, Samantha Markle, who's just changed her name back to Markle so she can truly cash in on this. So I just found myself saying, actually, when it comes to vultures, you're the vulture.
Feel the waves cut through me, hypnotized by the sounds I'm breathing in. Hold tight, chemicals collide. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Dripping lights paint the skies, all because of you. Dripping lights paint the skies, only you can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me. So alive, make it last forever.
He's not in military uniform. He is allowed to wear his medal.
The uniform you've been wearing this past week will give you a new story to tell. But I'm here to remind you that after all this, you don't need to rely on a uniform.
He's not in military uniform. He is allowed to wear his medals, but as a non-working member of the royal family, he appears as a kind of civilian guest.
It's your character that matters most.
All eyes will be on here. Only here for 24 hours, of course, not with Meghan. She's stayed behind because today, I think it's today or tomorrow.
Today is Archie's birthday.
Right.
So she stayed behind in California, and we have heard that right after the ceremony, Harry will return to the U.S. to celebrate his son's birthday, and not sure whether or not we'll see him behind us on the balcony. Chances are probably not, as a non-working member of the royal family.
Probably not. I think there are people hoping that he might. Look, every time he's in this country, Brits really hope for some kind of reconciliation. I think it's probably too much to ask for in the next 24 hours that might happen, but...
Dripping lights paint the skies, only you can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me move. Can make me move. You can make me move. Can make
Not sure whether or not we'll see him behind us on the balcony. Chances are probably not, as a non-working member of the royal family.
Probably not. I think there are people hoping that he might. Look, every time he's in this country, Brits really hope for some kind of reconciliation. I think it's probably too much to ask for in the next 24 hours that might happen.
Labour Member of Parliament Chris Bryant understands what it's like to be monstered.
Hi there, it's Chris Bryant. Leave a message after the tone and I'll try and get back to you. Many thanks, bye.
They threatened.
Yeah.
And they humiliated you.
Yes.
And that was standard practice.
I think it was pretty standard practice for anybody who got in the way.
Bryant got in the way at this parliamentary committee hearing back in 2003, when he got Rebecca Brooks, then editor of The Sun, to make an astonishing admission. Brooks was one of Rupert Murdoch's most trusted associates and would become chief executive of his British newspapers. A friend and confidant of prime ministers, she appeared at the hearing with her colleague Andy Coulson, editor of News of the World. What was the run-up to that? Why were they appearing before you?
We were doing a report on privacy and media intrusion. The issue of how you set about getting information is also, of course, a matter of importance. I mean, it was just a hunch. You know, sometimes you just have a hunch in politics. Do either of your newspapers ever use private detectives, ever bug or pay the police?
We have paid the police for information in the past, and it's been...
Andy Coulson, who was sitting beside her, tried to say, but only within the law. And I pointed out, but it's a criminal offence. It's corrupting a police officer, suborning a police officer.
Same holds for private detectives, for subterfuge, for video bags, whatever you want to talk about.
It's illegal for police officers to receive payments.
No, we don't. I just said within the law.
And then the chairman decided to close the meeting for some bizarre reason. I would much prefer to have been able to carry on.
Thanks very much. We're both grateful for your evidence.
So I then tried to get other newspapers interested. Hardly anybody even bothered to run the story. And I kept on trying to raise it. But, you know, there comes a point at which you feel as if you're banging your head against a wall. And, of course, then 6 months later, those two newspapers did me over good and proper. They hacked my phone and they ran some pretty hideous stories about my sexuality.
I get all of my passion, inspiration and energy from young people. And that is from the ages of 6 or 7 in the Caribbean, when you get a 6-year-old turning around to you and telling you exactly how much damage your country and the developed world is causing them, all the way to 28, 30-year-olds who at some point in their life have already a better understanding of duty and service than I ever did at that age. Because it's all about giving back. So yeah, I think that, look, lots of people say that, oh, your job of traveling the world is wonderful. Of course it's wonderful. But when we get sent to some countries, we don't always get to see the beautiful parts. We're always there trying to deal with some of the issues, but also doing everything we can to bring people together to make change, to make positive change. And it's an absolute joy and a privilege to meet the younger generation of change makers across the world who genuinely believe in the fact that they, as a single person and as a group and as a community and as a nation, not only can change their country but can change the world as well.
So this is from a different angle. Prince Harry arriving at court. It's the first time in 125 years that a royal's appeared.
And Jonathan Code, who is still with us as well, media lawyer, we're relying very much on your guidance today in terms of how things have gone legally, but certainly the flavour of what we've had from Prince Harry today is someone who feels that their life has been tormented by press intrusion. He is trying to do something about that, but the stakes are high for Prince Harry.
They are, but he clearly thinks it is a battle worth fighting. And as someone who's also had their fights with the tabloids on behalf of clients, I think he's absolutely right that it is a battle worth fighting.
Whether you think it's right is one thing. I guess the big question is, can he succeed?
Well, on the basis of today, my best guess is that he will succeed, because he only needs to establish one instance of unlawful information gathering to win this case.
Okay, and let's bring our listeners and viewers up to speed in terms of the civil nature of this hearing. It's not like a criminal court. There won't be a guilty or a not guilty verdict. What is the best that Prince Harry could hope for in terms of an outcome here, and potentially, you know, what could be an unfavourable outcome for him?
Well, his best outcome is that he wins. As I say, he's got 33 opportunities to win. The Mirror has to knock down all 33. If they knock down 32, 31, then they lose. So his best outcome is that a judge finds that the Mirror Group newspapers have engaged in unlawful information gathering against a senior royal member of the royal family. And that will be a stupendous win.
Jonathan, unlike a criminal court, there is no jury here. The ruling comes down to one person.
It does, and the judge has a very hard task. And I imagine he'll be sifting the evidence all the way through to September. But, he took this on, he knew what he was taking on, and I imagine that he will provide a very detailed and thought-out judgment.
In terms of how Prince Harry's done in court today, Laura, you've been in court and listened to some of the evidence. How do you think he's got on?
There was always a worry with Harry coming here in person that once he took to the witness stand, his lawyers, his legal team were not going to be able to advise him anymore. They haven't been able to coach him and tell him what to say, but they've been able to advise him. But as soon as he's under oath, that's it. He is on his own in that busy, crowded courtroom. And there was a fear that the barristers for Mirror Group newspapers would try and rattle, they'd try and rile him, prod and poke him until he started taking himself down roads that they wouldn't want him going down, saying things that they didn't want him saying. But it seems so far the reason Harry's team are happy is because he's remained calm. I think he's remained with more confidence perhaps as the proceedings have continued, and he certainly has kept his cool, and that was the fear there, that he wouldn't keep his cool, he'd lose his rag, if you like.
And just a recap for any viewers just joining us, we're showing you pictures from outside the High Court in central London, where Prince Harry has been giving evidence today in his High Court case against Mirror Group newspapers, suing them for obtaining information illegally about him in order to write articles in a period spanning more than 2 decades and dating back to 1996 when he was just 11 years old. Well, Prince Harry's evidence has concluded for today, but it's not over yet. He will continue tomorrow, but his evidence began at 10:30 this morning. It's concluded around 4:30 this afternoon. He's no doubt taking a break before he comes out of the High Court to leave for the day, and certainly someone who's just left the High Court has joked that he's already left out a back door, but we don't believe that to be the case given the police presence outside. So we will bring you that departure of Prince Harry potentially imminently, but certainly as soon as we get it. And for now, I'm discussing today's events with our royal correspondent, Laura Bundock, who's been following proceedings in court. And just bring viewers up to date, Laura, with the significance.
This mission against the press. He said it was a suicide mission, and Charles always has tried to keep the tabloids on side. Actually, rather for my own annoyance and bemusement. When I was working for the BBC, a very senior royal correspondent at the BBC, I was excluded from parties and events. I remember one big party at Buckingham Palace. I wasn't invited as the royal correspondent. Piers Morgan was as the editor of the Mirror. David Yellen was as the editor of the Sun. And I used to say to them, why? And why do you plant stories? And they did. Plant is a strong word. Give stories to the tabloids first. Why don't you come to me and I'll broadcast and they can follow me? But that was never the way Paris worked. They loved to pursue this mission against the press.
Welcome back to the High Court, where Prince Harry's cross-examination continues. He is still in the witness box. He's been in the witness box for more than 4 hours today, being cross-examined by the Mirror Group newspaper's barrister. In this case, where Prince Harry is suing the Mirror Group newspapers for obtaining information illegally, he's alleging, in order to write articles about him between the period of 1996 and 2010. Now, it's very detailed indeed, and we've had an explosive witness statement from Prince Harry today. Let's just bring in our royal correspondent, Laura Bundock, and media lawyer, Jonathan Code, who've been poring over the witness statement and following events in court. Thanks very much for standing by. Jonathan, you've been in court in the last half an hour, and you've been speaking to some of your legal sources in there. What have you been hearing?
Well, I've got some good intel from Team Harry. And the 3 points that they made to me is, as far as they're concerned, they think the cross-examination is going really well, which is my impression too. The second point they make is that all this about articles is to some extent irrelevant, because this is an unlawful information gathering claim. So whether it gets into a particular article or not is not the be-all and end-all of the claim. The third thing they said is that the Mirror Group is throwing tons of money at this. Apparently they've got an enormous back team of lawyers, much bigger than Prince Harry's side, and extensive tech backup, which Prince Harry's side doesn't have. So what that tells you is they're really worried about the possible outcome of this case.
That's interesting. So you determined that by, reaching deeply into their pockets to fund this case,
they're clearly concerned about it.
Absolutely.
But interestingly, Jonathan, could that make the difference? Could the team throwing the most money at lawyers essentially come out better?
Well, I very much hope not. I mean, in litigation, resources does make an impact. But if I can, I want to tell you the nearest I think that we've got to a smoking gun point. So just before I came out, the KC for the Mirror was talking about a Mirror article which dealt with Harry's holiday in Mozambique with Chelsea Davy. Now,
one victim of phone hacking blamed a family member, blamed a sister for a really intimate story getting into the newspapers because her sister was the only person that she'd told. And it never crossed her mind that exchanges on voicemail between her and her sister had been listened to by investigators working for newspapers or by newspaper journalists. Just have a think about that for a minute. Your sister is the only person that knows you are, let's say, pregnant. Right? The only person you've told is your sister. And it turns up in a newspaper the next day. So what do you do? Who do you blame? She's the only person you've told. So you check. I mean, did you tell anyone? No, I promise, I swear, of course I didn't tell anyone. You must have told someone. How's it got into the paper? Think about the damage that could do to a relationship. And now, particularly if you're someone who spends a lot of time on social media attacking Prince Harry and his wife, now just think about the possibility, or the allegation, not even the fact, just the possibility that he has spent his entire life at constant risk of that sort of betrayal of trust, or perceived betrayal of trust, his entire life. That's what this case is about. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
So this is from a different angle. Prince Harry arriving at court. It's the first time in 125 years that a royal's appeared.
関係者に囲まれながら空港のロビーを歩いています。
黒いシャツに帽子をかぶった姿で今羽田空港に到着しました。笑顔も見られますね。
Hey Henry, welcome to Japan. How would you like to be in Japan for the first time in 4 years?
羽田空港には午前中から空港で待っていたというファンも。
とてもかっこよかったです。それとプリンスハリー、プリンセスダイアナって言ったらこっちの方振り向いてくれて、この写真。
People who are literally at rock bottom. They don't know what to do with their life. They themselves, their family, their children, every single element has been disrupted and changed forever. But then you give them the opportunity to sit on a rowing machine, you give them the opportunity to put a prosthetic leg on and run 100 or 200 meters and train for a goal, to suddenly have a purpose in life. Literally, it saves lives.
Thank you that you speak so much for such an icon, so modest. Oh my word. Wow. You're welcome.
Hello, this is Tazine. Hi, Tazine.
Hi, Jazine.
Hi. Oh my god. I can't believe that I'm speaking with you both right now.
The Responsible Technology Youth Power Fund is an investment in young people that are shaping a more equitable and inclusive technology future. The Youth Power Fund is supporting 26 organizations from around the United States that are focused on the whole spectrum of responsible technology, from harm mitigation to ensuring equitable access to the benefits of technology, to using technology as a platform to address some of the biggest challenges that this next generation is facing.
Congratulations, this is great, and we're so happy to have you as part of this team.
Really, thank you for all the work you're doing. It's huge. It's making an enormous impact.
It was like young people were empowered and emboldened to say things to me online that they would never say to me in person.
And so my vision was,
can we actually stop the cyberbullying at the source with the cyberbully via a behavioral approach that actually teaches young people to pause and rethink.
This is amazing. This is exactly why we do what we do. This is exactly why the Youth Power Fund was created.
You know, so many different opportunities have presented itself to really uplift our message and to continue our work to inform legislation and to create a safe online world for young people, for the next generation.
For your kids and so many other people that need to be protected.
And to have their digital rights maintained.
Social media was a major area that I think in many ways is a lot helpful to a lot of people, but at the same time creates huge harms for so many people, especially in terms of mental health.
I felt like I had to get involved because I think young people need to be heard.
In order for politicians to take action on this issue.
I got involved in a legislative advocacy initiative in my home state of California here in the US, and I actually came across an investigation that found that there were algorithms being used in our legal system here in the US that are actually biased against Black defendants.
Thank you for doing everything that you do. Our kids especially are incredibly good.
Bye.